Welcome to the Daily Insight. I'm JC, and guess what? Today we're going to be talking about goals, wants, and dreams.
Let's go. There's not a man that I fear. There's nobody here that can stop me. Cause I'm in a league of my own, kid. Y'all can just sit back and watch me. They know who I am, they can't imitate.
This is a topic that I think no one talks about. No one actually talks about. When you're going through school, when you're talking to your parents, like they're like, oh, what's your 5-year, 15-year, 30-year plan in life? And you know what? Like, the person that I was 5 or 10 years ago when I set that goal out is not the same person that I am today. And that frustrates the hell out of me. But at the same time, I think looking far in the future and having some type of guidelines to kind of strive for is super important. And I think it's something that, at least for me, has helped me out tremendously. I read this book called Vivid Vision, and it really broke down on what you needed to do to really, craft the vision you wanted for your future. And one of the things that they talked about was sitting inside a room, emptying getting rid of all distractions and just really focusing on what you want out of life. And it was one of those exercises that I did just like 5 minutes ago. And I really described what I wanted and what I envisioned my life looking like. And one of the things that I mentioned was owning and operating a studio/office. It's one of those dreams of mine, is to be able to have my own space where I can create. I can record YouTube videos. I can draw. I can paint if I want to. I can design clothing. I can design hats. I can do the more creative stuff in my life, but then also have a space where, it's kind of like a clubhouse. When you're a kid, you create these clubhouses, with your friends, and you've got your drinks. I'd want the fridges full of really good beer and expensive bourbon, and I'd want energy drink, endless amounts of energy drinks, and I'd want to be able to sell my merchandise. It's one of those things that I absolutely love. I love designing logos and clothing and sharing my inspiration with the stuff that I like to wear. And it's one of those passions, and having some type of storefront like that is just so intriguing to me. It's one of those spaces that probably doesn't make a lot of sense financially, but it makes total sense in my head and will check so many boxes. But the key thing about that vision that I wrote down was the ability to really describe some of the details in that studio office space. And it really gives you a really clear picture of if it's really what you want. And you get to decide, what kind of furniture, what kind of floors is it gonna have, what kind of lighting, what kind of atmosphere is this place gonna actually, bring. And you start checking off some of these details, and you start crafting this, and all of a sudden your brain starts, clicking and starts, thinking and brainstorming on, why not? And it's one of those terminologies. It's like a lot of people, with this negative aspect in their life, they might say why would you want that? You travel full time. Why would you want a home base? Why would you want a studio or office to put all your crap? Just stick it in a storage unit. And for most people, that's what I would suggest them to do. But having that positive mindset and having some of that positive energy, putting it out in the world, I recognize that why not have a studio? Why not have a cool space with, you're able to sell some of the merchandise stuff that you like to design and craft and you want to share with the world? Why not pick a city, find some office space or some retail space and create this? Why not? Life is short. What's the worst thing that can happen? It fails, but it's a great story. And I think a lot of times we forget that, most of the things that we really dream up, until you try them, you're never going to know if you actually want to do that thing. And for me, do I really want to run and operate a retail space or a studio space? I don't know yet, but I think it would be an interesting experiment, and I'm just getting this massive amount of energy. But the thing about creating that vision and creating that goal, want, or dream, it's one of those things really getting into the weeds, getting really into the details about what that dream might look like. And it's one of those things that my wife and I talk about all the time, and I've got to kind of reel her in sometimes when we're talking about the big picture things. What are our life, what what do we want our life to look like? And one of the things that she does really, really well is she gets into the weeds. She gets into how to make the sandwich. I say, Caitlin, I'm thinking about opening a restaurant. She goes, you know what? We should have Dijon mustard. And I go, we haven't even determined what kind of restaurant it is yet. You're kind of getting, you know, the wagon is getting ahead of the horse. And it's one of those things that, you know, she has that ability to really get into the weeds, really get into those finer details. And when I set my mind to something, that's when I really allow myself to get into the details. Like, what do I want this space to look like? What do I want it to feel like? What is it going to smell like? What kind of beverages are we going to sell? What kind of clothing are we going to sell? What are the racks are going to look like? Is there any employees? Is it one of those stores that you walk in that's only open, you know, Friday and Saturdays? Is it something that, you know, it has loud music, or does it have some type of classical piano playing in the background, or, you know, all of these things that you start checking these boxes, and all of a sudden that vision becomes incredibly clear. And once you get into the weeds and you start writing these things down, it's pretty powerful. It's pretty magical. It's one of those things that just gets me jacked. And it's crafting that vision. It's crafting what you really want out of life. And you know, one of the things that people ask me all the time is, how do I get the same life you have? Like, what did you do? And it was one of those things that we were sitting in a boot Bali, and I had banged up my knee. I'd given myself rhabdo from running too many miles. I got lost in the Ubud Mountains and kind of overdid it in the extreme heat when I was running one of my longer runs. And I was sitting there trying to relax, and I go, you know what, I'm gonna write a guide. I'm gonna write a guide about how I crafted, you know, how I get anything out of this life. How do I put it, you know, how do I get it from up here, you know, into written form, and then taking action and actually delivering what I want out of life. And it's one of those like superpowers that I have. I just have this ability to really, you know, curate anything that I want in this life, as long as I'm willing to work incredibly hard for it and dedicate my life, you know, trying to accomplish those things. And so I wrote this guide. I wrote this guide on 6 steps to get whatever the hell you want out of life. And it's below. It's listed below. This is not an advertisement. This isn't some ClickFunnels thing that I'm trying to trick you into buying something, but it's absolutely free. All you got to do is give me your email, and I can just send it to you then. But it was one of those guides that, you know, took that vivid vision and then really put some action behind it, and really gave, you know, you my steps on how to accomplish whatever you want. So today, when I'm writing down, you know, the studio and, you know, the ideology behind like the retail space and what it looks like and what we're going to sell and what am I going to create there, what kind of videos am I going to, you know, capture, and what kind of cameras and what kind of studio setup is it going to have, what kind of microphones, what kind of like ambience, and like, are we going to be able to like smoke cigars in it? And the answer is probably not, but, you know, what kind of bourbon is going to be sitting on the shelf? You know, is it going to be Blanton's, or is it going to be Woodford's? Is it going to be Buffalo Trace? Like, what is it? You know, what are these fine details? And as I'm checking these boxes, and I'm really crafting this really good picture, this very clear vision of what I want, you know, and the next couple steps are pretty important. It's about taking action, and it's reading those, you know, reading that, you know, that want and desire, and keeping it fresh in your mind. Don't just write it down and shove it in a book or in a binder and never look at it again. You got to look at it twice a day. You got to, you know, when you wake up in the morning, you got to look at that vision. You got to look at that goal, that want, that dream. And then throughout the day, you're going to be thinking about those things, and you're going to be working really, really hard to go get those things. And it's going to be almost subconsciously. And before you go to bed, you're going to read this, you know, this dream of yours. And what's shocking is that dream, or that want, or that desire, or that goal, whatever you're fiending for, it's right around the corner. And it's just about taking that action. It's about finding someone else that has done it and just copying whatever they did. You don't have to worry about blazing your own path. You find someone that has found some success, and then you go and chase, you know, that dream down. And, you know, for me, it was one of those things that, you know, if I really craft this really clear vision, and then I start reading it twice a day, and then I start taking little action every single day on getting a step closer to what I really, really want. You know, one of the things that helps, you know, help me keep me accountable is telling a couple people about it. And I usually only tell a few people that I really, really trust, because most people are going to tell you that you're batshit crazy. Or they're going to tell you, no matter what, it's a great idea. And I'm not looking for those types of people. What I'm looking for are the people that are going to set me up for success, who are going to set me up for, not necessarily failure, but really give me a good idea of what it's going to take. What is the work that it's going to take to really accomplish what I really want out of life, or whatever dream I might have. And the next thing, one of the more important steps that I highlight in the guide is, and it's probably the biggest one, and it's just not giving up, because you never know when you might strike gold. It might be just one more swing. It might be 10 more swings. It might be 10 more years of swings, but it'll all be worth it. If it's something that you truly desire, something that you truly want, it's right around the corner, and you just got to go get it. And it's one of those things that I was pretty proud of when I wrote it down. And it's absolutely free. All you got to do is go down to the link below and get these really simple 6 steps on how I crafted, how I got whatever the hell I wanted out of life. And it's a document that I reference all the time, especially when I start checking things off the box. I start, some of the goals that I've had the last couple of years, I've been able to accomplish those things, and now I'm crafting new goals and new dreams and new wants, and creating this next step, this next life, this next desire. And it's one of those documents that I look at all the time, and it's something that I exercise. It's one of those guides that I pull out, and I follow the steps, and it's helped me, and it's going to continue to help me get the things that I want out of life. So hopefully that has helped you here on today's Daily Insight. If you enjoyed this process, please download the link below, but also consider subscribing. So until next time, we will see you tomorrow. Cheers.
Let's go. There's not a man that I fear. There's nobody here that can stop me. Cause I'm in a league of my own, yeah. Y'all can just sit back and watch me. They know who I am, they can't imitate.